Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Calling All Creatures. I am your host, Lori, and tonight we have a great podcast. I'm going to be talking to Dr. Robin Moore, who is the veterinarian, and she's also the owner of East Bay Animal Hospital in Florida. And so she's got all sorts of great things to tell us tonight about all sorts of different stuff that she does as a veterinarian. And we're going to talk a little bit about cats and some problems with litter boxes and stuff, and how you can kind of work on that with your kitty cats. So I'm very happy to have you on with me tonight, Robin. It's great to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. I am super excited about all the things we're going to talk about tonight.
Good. I'm excited too. So why don't we just kind of start out with what inspired you to become a veterinarian, and how did that path kind of lead you to the East Bay Animal Hospital?
Oh, goodness. Lori, I always tell people I was created in the womb to be a veterinarian because I can't ever remember not wanting to be one.
Yeah.
I started volunteering at my family vet's office when I was like 15 years old, and it just continued from there. How did I land at East Bay? I think that was because when I was working as a young vet team member, I had some really great mentors in the veterinarians that were there, so I looked for that during the interview process as I was becoming a veterinarian. And I found that at East Bay Animal Hospital. The previous owner, Dr. Marshall, and his team, they were just so welcoming and kind, and he was a fantastic mentor. I probably couldn't have asked for a better one for me. Awesome. And then as the owner of East Bay, I've strived to continue to kind of keep that mentoring mindset as philosophy. Okay. We host high school shadows and the college kids who need to get their hours. On any given day, I have volunteers and students just swirling about me.
Well, that's awesome that you keep that going, and that you guys have shadows and stuff like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, you've had the hospital since about, 2008? So in that time frame between then and now and stuff, how has veterinary medicine kind of changed since you started?
I think the way veterinary medicine has changed in general since 1996 when I started working there to 2008 when I bought it is just generally the way the world has changed as a whole. Technology advancements, right. Veterinary medicine has been touched by that as well. Right. And it's evolved tremendously, and we now have that at our fingertips when it comes to helping pets and pet parents and such like that.
Yeah, I know there's been so many remarkable advancements over the years in animal and human, medicine and stuff like that. So yeah, that's awesome. That things have gotten so much better. So now, what is your philosophy when it comes to balancing advanced medical care with your personal compassionate touch?
I think my philosophy is that they really aren't. You can't separate them. They're inseparable. Veterinary medicine is a combination of both, science and the soul. We might have this cutting edge technology available to us, but it shouldn't disconnect us from the person who's holding the leash. Otherwise, you're missing half of the picture. Right. So my goal is always to help pet parents navigate the intricacies of those advanced testings in a way that feels human. I always try to explain complex things simply. I try to guide them without judgment. If they can't afford the advanced diagnostics, no judgment here. We'll work around that. And then always try to remember that all of my patients have a family member behind them.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so many people, view their pets as a family member that they do want to have, I guess you might say, that acknowledgement, or that, type of compassion that when it's something that's an emergency or even health related to their pet, that they're just as concerned as they would be if it was actually, their child or their sibling or their parent or something like that.
Right.
So, I mean, I think you do have to kind of keep that in mind as a veterinarian and keep that compassion. And yeah, and it is hard out there in the world sometimes when it comes to having to do some of these things with our pets and the, sometimes the costs and stuff on them, because especially right now with the way with the way things are going, it's just horrible out there, and it's so hard now to try to afford, it's hard to afford the medical costs for ourselves, let alone our pets. That's the bad part of it all. And believe me, I know, I have a senior dog. She is 16.
I love those senior pets.
Yeah, she's my girl. I've had her I used to do animal control, and she came to me at the shelter when I think she was 1 or 2, and I brought her home. She was very dog picky. And I wasn't able to find any dogs. She wasn't getting adopted. And so it came to a situation where my chief was like basically telling me to put her down if I didn't, and I wasn't about to do that. So she got adopted by me. So I brought her home, and I've had her ever since. So I've had her about 12 years now, and I
love that.
Oh, yeah. She's been one of the, and I know everybody says this about their dogs, but she has been one of the better dogs that I've ever owned. She's never given me any problems. She always is so mellow. So, it's just those things, and she's my girl. She's laying here on the couch with me right now looking at me because she knows I'm talking to her. So, I'm talking about you, huh? Yeah. So I can kind of understand, it is a good thing that, veterinarians are able to keep that level of compassion for the owners, because that's very important. It's very important. So now, as we were just talking about, and you mentioned you love them, you do have a soft spot for the senior pets.
Yeah.
So what makes caring for them so special for you?
I think my soft spot for senior pets has developed probably because of where I live. It's a high retirement age population.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of older pets. Senior pets just have like this quiet wisdom about them. And I mean, I simply love their gray faces. It melts my heart every time.
Yeah.
But, they've grown alongside their families. I have been in my practice now 30 years, so I've seen generations of families, and thus I've seen generations of pets. But, they grow alongside their families. They share those chapters of life, and you can actually see that. When I look at my patients, I can see that in their eyes.
Yeah.
And so winning the trust of those families to take care of these pets in their golden years is just a blessing to me. And I struggle when people say she's just getting old, she's just slowing down, because getting old is not a disease. And I strive to help my clients who've had these pets understand that it's just a season of life that deserves as much care and comfort and to be celebrated as any other stage of life. And it's important that we help the owners understand that when we address the issues of aging, their pets can become they can become more vitality. That's the word I'm looking for. That vitality can be maintained even into the most senior years that pets experience. And I mean, that's true for people too,
Yep.
If you manage all of the symptoms of aging, you can maintain vitality.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I know my girl here, she sleeps a whole lot more than she ever used to, but she still likes her treats and her dinner and stuff like that. So, the main things of life for her.
Right.
And it's funny because, I've got dog beds throughout the house for her, but my son was actually here the other day and he was laughing because she's got me so trained. Her age, she can't jump up on the couch anymore. So she literally will walk over to the couch and stand there and just stare at me. Like,
you look. Yeah,
are you going to help me up on the couch or what? So Yeah, she did that the other day, and my son was here, and he watched her do that, and me help her get up on the couch, and he just started laughing.
Funny.
You know? He's like, "Oh yeah, she's got you trained." I'm like, "Well,
No doubt.
she
love that.
she can't do it herself anymore, so you gotta help
exactly.
her." Yeah. So I told him, I said, if I ever get to that point and I can't walk and I'm in a wheelchair or something, you're gonna have to push me around.
You're gonna have to help me too.
Yeah, exactly. I might need help get on my couch. So he was laughing. So I got kind of a soft spot. She's my last one I had 6, and she's my last girl now.
Oh, she's the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, she's the last. So, and it'll be a sad day when she does finally go, but we've all had a good time with her. She's been so good. And surprisingly enough, her coming from a background I never knew anything about, she actually has done, great with my grandkids and everything. So,
wow.
Oh yeah, she did great with my grandkids and everything. Growing up, they grew up with her.
I think sometimes the shelter pets are the most appreciative of a comfortable home.
I think so too sometimes, and it's so sad that so many people, don't adopt, and so many dogs and cats too are getting put to sleep because they don't have homes.
Yeah.
It's really sad, but hopefully one day the world will get better and people will change, and we won't have the pet overpopulation problem. And
yeah, well, things like your podcast can help make a difference with that. It feels like it's a drop in a bucket of water, but every little drop has ripples, right?
It does. And we used to talk about that in animal control for the spay and neutering and stuff like that, and it'd be funny because I would tell people some years working at the shelter, it seems like I could kind of see that spaying and neutering was making a difference. But then the very next year it was like, I don't know if it really did, because they was right back up to where it was, before. So you just never know. But it is what it is. And hopefully, like I said, one day the world will be different and things won't be as they are. And we won't have to worry about having dogs in shelters or cats in shelters being put to sleep. And they'll have homes. So every dog,
absolutely,
I think, deserves one. So, kind of coming into one of the things I saw, I watched your, you did a blog pause, Real Talks. And so I was watching that, and you were talking about the kitty litter and the cats and the cat boxes and stuff, which was kind of why I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that issue, because it's funny because during animal control, so many people would turn in their cats because of litter box issues. And, you would try to help them to understand and try to figure out. It was like, hey, did you go to the vet? Make sure there wasn't any health issues. It might be the type of litter. It could be this. It could be that. But a lot of times those litter box issues, people just don't want to deal with it, and they bring them in instead of trying to figure out what the problem is. And that's sad because a lot of times it can be corrected.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So on that talk about the litter box issues, what kind of inspired you to tackle that subject?
So pretty much what you just said. It's well documented that litter box issues is, if not the top, one of the top reasons why cats are surrendered to shelters or rehomed. And so tackling this topic came from me seeing pet parents through the years being so frustrated and at their wits' end that I've had many cats surrendered to me, personally to me at my vet hospital, because they've been brought in to be euthanized as a result of it. So, that was kind of why it's a passion of mine in veterinary medicine, is to get to the bottoms of those, is to be able to keep cats in their home. But the true inspiration, which I actually talk about during the talk, is that I ended up having a personal experience with litter box wars in my own home. My 2 senior kitties began combating each other to see who could most effectively not go inside of the box, who could do it best.
Oh, my goodness.
And then, experiencing it firsthand gave me more intimate understanding of how pet parents feel about the situation. Mm-hmm. And why they get to that point where they're ready to surrender or rehome, because I was there myself with both of these cats. So in my Cat Box Wars 101 talk, I wanted to bridge the gap between what pet owners feel, the stress, the confusion, the anxiety, the anger, and what's actually happening from a medical behavioral standpoint. And by doing that with Cat Box Wars, I can help people understand their cats that's on a level that can literally save the lives and preserve these relationships and keep cats in their homes.
Right. So, from, I guess, your personal experience and listening to all these other people, what are some of the most common causes when cats start avoiding their litter box?
If I could lump it into one word, the most common cause is stress. Stress of any type can lead to just a myriad of behavioral reasons for avoiding the box. But those behavioral reasons then can trigger something called FIC, feline idiopathic cystitis. And from a medical standpoint, we document that to be 60% of the medical cases of lower urinary tract disease in cats. The three main stressors, if you will, are medical, behavioral, or environmental. Of course, medical things like infections, stones, that type of thing. Behavioral, anything in the household that changes the dynamic will stress your cat out. New pet, house guest, changing your work schedule, anything like that. And then environmentally, you forget to clean the litter box well for 1 week. Your cat pees outside of the box. Well, he's going to do it again because now that area smells like his urine. So it really boils down to, if we can identify the why, then we can fix the problem and maybe, again, keep these cats in their homes.
Right. So when it comes down to something kind of like that, how can owners kind of tell whether it's maybe a medical issue versus something behavioral or environmental? What are some things they might be able to look for?
Yeah, so if it's a 1 or 2 off and your cat just didn't go in the box once or twice and then they're right back to normal, it was probably purely behavioral. And through trial and error, you probably remedied the situation. But if it happens, I always say 3 strikes, you're out. Third time, you got to go to the vet, because especially if there's outward signs like drinking more, urinating more, decreased appetite, vomiting, low energy, if you've got other things going on, it almost always signifies that it's a medical problem as opposed to a behavioral problem. And of course, the first thing you need to do is just go see your vet.
Right. Yeah. I know, like I said, I've had so many people come and tell me and never even thinking about it. And sometimes it's the litter that you're using. Sure,
absolutely.
I mean, they might not like the smell, or they might not like the feel of it or something on their paws. I mean, it can be a number of things when it comes to that.
You bought a different bag because it was on sale. You didn't think it would matter to your cat.
Right, exactly.
It matters significantly to them.
I
always tell people, I say it in my talk too, that you have a preference for the type of toilet paper you use, yes? Cats have a preference for the type of litter they use as well.
That is true. I know people have preferences for toilet paper. So. That is true. Another thing I was kind of reading is the cat boxes too. Mm-hmm. If maybe the box is too small, or they have the covered ones, and sometimes cats don't like those covered ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely,
yeah. So there's so many things that come into that consideration if you're having any kind of litter box issues with your cat. If you've gotten it figured out it's not medical, then you need to start looking at all these other things.
Yeah, all of that comes into play for sure.
Yeah. So if there is something going on, what's 1 or 2 easy kinds of changes that you suggest that might often make a big difference?
The big difference is the big box. If all of a sudden your kitty's not going potty in the box, offer them something much larger. Because potentially they've been having some arthritis and they can't get into the small box. Anything like that can make them think that the small standard cat boxes are not adequate. So if I could pick one thing to see if it would make a difference, is to get a big box, bigger than what you have, and offer a second box in a different location possibly with a different litter choice. If that doesn't fix it, then again, we're back to let's investigate medical.
Yeah. That would make sense because, I mean, if it's something to do with the one box or the litter, if they have a different one to choose from, then you might figure it out that they prefer one litter over the other.
Yeah, it sounds really basic, but doing small things like that, and also making sure that the box is in a safe, inviting place. It's a quiet area, low traffic area. Those are all things that will make your kitty feel comfortable to go back into the box.
So, as like you said, you had a couple of senior cats that went to war with each other over their boxes. So, what would be your best tips for trying to keep the peace between your kitties and keeping your floors clean?
All right, I'm just gonna beat it. Big boxes and as many as you can give them. Big clean boxes and as many as you can give them. Other than that, multiple cats is going to mean that unless you live in a mansion, the cats are always going to feel cramped for space. That's just how cats are wired. More than 2 cats in a standard size house, the cats are going to feel crowded. So if there's any way that you can either go up with many options of climbing, cat towers, things mounted on the wall, high shelves, that type of thing, or if you can go out, like an outdoor enclosed catio type situation, expand the space available to them, then you're going to help your cats become more at ease with one another. Or go buy a mansion and have as many cats as you want.
Well, there you go. If you want a lot of cats, you need a mansion. And then it's interesting about that because so many, the cat rescues and stuff, they have so many cats in them. I wonder how they deal with all of that, having that many cats together in a smaller space. Because maybe you might have a foster home where you have some, but I know, we have some cat rescues here. There's a pretty good sized one, and they have quite a few cats at their place. I don't know how big it is, but as many cats as they have, I wouldn't think it would be big enough for all of them not to be getting too cramped.
They feel crowded, no doubt. But they're doing the best they can, and they try to make their stay as short as possible. So they're not in that situation for a long term, hopefully.
Yep, exactly. I know they do. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes them a while, to get their kitty cats adopted. So, but they do the best that they can. And that's, I can't fault them for that. They do what they can with what they've got. So
absolutely.
And hopefully maybe more people will start to foster so that the kitties can have more space. So now we talked a little bit now about our cat box issues, and hopefully people out there have gotten a few more tips on what they can do to try to figure out how to help their cats out if they're having any kind of cat wars going on in their homes. Let's talk about some of the variety of animals at East Bay that you see. What do you think is the most unusual or memorable case that you've ever worked on?
Let's see. Well, I do exotics, so I see a wide variety of animals, and I've been doing that ever since I graduated. I've only ever treated one primate. It was a baby lemur, and she had a head injury, so that was quite interesting. And then I think my favorite, cutest little patient was a bat that was cold stunned, and he decided to hang out in our doorway of the vet hospital, and we left him alone until he fell one night. And so we warmed him up and called the bat rescue people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't let anybody else touch him. I wore welder's gloves and, with an abundance of caution. But he was so stinking cute. He was a little baby bat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've had a Bat World Sanctuary on with me, and we've talked about bats and stuff. So I follow them on Facebook. They always have these cute, they do bat booty Mondays or something like that. And they'll show little bat booties. It's so cute. Yeah, they're good people. They do a lot of good work too for the bats. So I'm glad you were able to get a bat rescue to come and get that one and help him out. That's good. I'm assuming they probably got him warmed up and everything. Yeah, and were able to re-release him.
Did whatever they needed to do and then released him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they work hard on doing that. They're in Texas, and they've got a huge bat sanctuary there. So
That's so cool.
yeah, they do a lot of work with the bats. And one of the bridges or something there, they house, I can't remember how many bats, but it's huge amount of bats, and you can go and stand on the bridge at dusk and watch them all come flying out and stuff. It's really kind of cool.
Neat. Yeah, in Florida we have them at dusk as well. They start flying all around, and I've never seen one up close. You know, the fear of God's put in you when it comes to don't touch a bat. You know, you're going to get the rabies and die. But I just was amazed at how intricate his little nose and his little ears, his little eyes, and then the webbing of his wings. It was just an absolutely amazing animal.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I know I've had the opportunity to see a couple up close, but unfortunately they had to go in and get tested for rabies.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But so you did mention that you work with exotics. So how is working with exotic pets compared to more traditional ones like the dogs and the cats?
I mean, it's challenging and rewarding in different ways. With dogs and cats, there's like a level of comfort and familiarity, not only as a doctor, but I mean, I've personally lived with, cared for many dogs and cats in my lifetime, so I have a very intimate knowledge of both dog and cat species, right? Mm-hmm. But with exotics, I oftentimes just have to be a detective. Their illnesses are usually very subtle until they're advanced. So, you know, with dogs and cats, I might see them very early. With exotics, they're going to show up very sick, very advanced. And so I have to be a detective with the owners to kind of come up with what could be going on. And then a lot of the patients that I see are new species to me, may never have actually seen that type of lizard or that type of rodent in the past. And so it often requires me to phone a friend. And what I mean by that is I need to reach out to a trusted colleague who has more experience or specific experience to ask for their input. I'm also a member of several online veterinary forums for exotic veterinarians, and that community is widely supportive of one another and just phenomenal in offering experience, because once one of us knows it, 3 of us know it, 10 of us know it, then, you know, it spreads. So the veterinary community is very supportive there. Other than that, I would say it's the variation in patient size. The smallest patient I can remember seeing was like a 2-gram chameleon hatchling. But I've also treated all the way up to a 1-ton baby sperm whale.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, patient size. And, you know, just with dogs and cats, I've refined my standards of care over decades. But with exotics, it almost seems like it's new every single time. But that variety keeps me learning and humble and growing every day.
Right. Well, I would imagine, I mean, if it's something different all the time, you're going to have to keep learning so you can keep treating them.
Yep.
So what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you hear from pet owners about preventative care?
Yeah, good question. It might not be a misconception, but rather a failure to understand the paramount importance of preventative care. I'm going to quote Benjamin Franklin: "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." So people often think that preventative care is optional or only necessary when a pet seems sick, but in reality, it's what keeps them from getting sick in the first place.
Right, exactly.
And the heartache, headache, pocketbook ache associated with curing those preventable diseases is just often wretched sometimes, when, you know, preventative measures could have been taken and the pet never got sick in the first place.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, again, sort of like us as humans, you know, if we can do preventative care so we don't get sick, I mean, it's all better for us in the long run.
Right.
And we definitely don't want to see our pets getting sick. So, you know, it's too bad that they have, you know, or that aren't informed enough to understand that it works basically the same way as it does with humans, you know?
Yeah, prevention is really the foundation of lifelong health, right? Both for people and for pets.
Exactly, it is. So, yeah, it's too bad more people don't realize it. And I think some of it I do think also comes back to, the cost. But if you can afford to do the preventative care, you might keep yourself from spending a whole lot more when they're a lot sicker.
I always call it the pocketbook ache. Headache, heartache, and the pocketbook ache.
Yes, exactly. So you, have done quite a few different things throughout your veterinarian career. You've also worked with organizations like the Pinellas Animal Foundation and Clearwater Marine Aquarium, who I actually had on my podcast a few years ago.
That's cool.
Yeah, loved talking with them. Winter was still with them at that point.
Aww.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry she passed. That was so sad.
Yeah.
They did so. Yeah. She was such an inspiration to so many people.
She was.
Oh my gosh, it was just amazing, that story. And it was really cool because you could do the little birthday videos. So I actually got a birthday video of her for my granddaughter. So I thought that was kind of cool. So.
That is.
Now, working with those different organizations, how has that kind of helped to shape your approach to animal welfare?
I think it's mostly just kind of broadened my perspective on, if you will, the definition of animal welfare. Community and conservation groups, working with them kind of helped me to understand that it's not all about what happens inside of a veterinary hospital when it comes to animal welfare. The larger picture is like the ecosystem and education and outreach and stewardship, and just, reinforcing that through organizations working together, be that veterinarians, shelters, marine biologists, pet parents, all working for the same goal, which is happier, healthy pets and more compassionate care for animals across the board.
Yeah. It'd be lovely if more people would be a little more compassionate when it comes to animals, and that we didn't have all the bad things that go on in the world with them.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful. So when it comes to, let's say, pet parents understanding about veterinary visits or long-term health care, what's one thing that you kind of wish that they understood a little bit more?
I think the take I'll take on this is that veterinarians for a long time have been dubbed the other family doctor. And so it's really important to establish, kind of going back to the preventative care, it's important to establish your relationship with your vet before your pet gets sick. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Top of the list is that when we veterinarians are familiar with your pet, we can better recognize when something is off or not quite right about them. And sometimes that's even before you would notice it. An example would be you bring your 50-pound dog in for an annual exam, and he's lost 5 pounds. We've consistently weighed him the last 6 years that he's been there. He's been about 50 pounds, and now he's 45. And you didn't put him on a diet.
Right.
You might not have noticed that 5-pound weight loss.
Right.
But we do. Or we take their temperature every single time they're there, and now it's 2 degrees higher than what it has been for the last 3 years when he's come in for his annual. He's got a fever, and you didn't know it. Right? So it helps us just pick up a little bit better and easier and quicker when we are familiar with you and we're familiar with your pet. It's not uncommon for me to even be able to pick up on a different demeanor over the course of years. If a pet, again, going back to arthritis, comes in and it's not that bouncy puppy, happy, yay, kissy, 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 but he's walking a little slower. You are seeing your pet every day and might not pick up on that. I see him once a year, and I will notice the difference.
That is true. A lot of people don't notice differences. Now, temperature changes and stuff like that would be, I think, a little harder for someone to realize if their pet's running a fever, just because unless you're taking a temperature, I'm not quite sure how you know if they're running a fever.
Right.
I mean, it's not like a person where you feel them and you can feel how hot they are. And even sometimes that's not working right, But,
and then there's another layer to that, and again, we're bringing back in the people, is that if I, as your other family doctor, know you, and I know your family, and I know your children, and I know your children's children, and their pet, I'm in a situation where I'm now 3 generations in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a whole family background that surrounds that pet. And it's easier for me with that level of familiarity to help you navigate the difficult things that come about with your pet.
Exactly.
As opposed to when your pet is now ill and you're meeting your veterinarian for the first time, which happens frequently.
Yes, it does. I've been with my veterinarian now for quite a few years, and you're absolutely right. She knows my dogs. I mean, it's not just I don't just see the one vet in the practice. I've seen she's had 2 or 3, but.
And it's the team members, too.
Yes.
Lori. It's not just me. It's the receptionist, the technician, the kennel staff,
yes.
The people that you see repeatedly that you probably actually see more than you see your pet.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because, when we walk into my veterinarian's office, the office staff knows me. They know my dog. And it's funny because one of the vet staff at my veterinarian's office used to work with my son at PetSmart. So he really he's really known me for a long time now. You're exactly right with that. When you walk in, they all know us. They know her. They know, her age and things and stuff like that. And it's nice to have that established rapport with them, number one, but also the one I trust my vet because she doesn't pull punches either. She never tries to really sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
For me, which I really appreciate because I'm one of those people. Give it to me straight so I can make my decision and figure out what I need to do. So
right.
She's awesome about doing that and. She'll be the first one. It's like my girl here when we were in for her last physical. She now has several bad teeth.
Yeah.
And so we discussed, either dental or pulling the teeth or whatever. But she's 16. We can't put her under to do that. She's too old. Is she probably? I don't know if she'd make it. Through an anesthesia. So we're doing the best we can, and she's getting soft food.
There you go.
So she still gets a little bit of the hard stuff, but I try to keep as much soft as I can for her because of those teeth. And then the vet said that, they may even fall out on their own at some point. But, it's kind of one of those things. What do you really do when you can't? You do certain things, you do the best you can. So I'm very happy that I have the vet that I have because she's just been great with my dogs over the years and me and, her whole team. Everybody, like you said, the whole team. Yeah. The whole staff over there.
It's a team effort. Yep.
Yes, exactly. They've all been great, and I love them. So if any of them are listening, I love you guys. So I'm sure most people have good rapport for the most part with their vets, but unfortunately, like you said, a lot of people do wait till that last minute thing, and then there's this emergency, and that's the first time they're walking in. And then, of course, now it's your first time meeting this vet. They're
helping you make really hard decisions.
Exactly. And then, of course, you're thinking to yourself, is what they're telling me actually accurate? Do I really need to do this? Should I talk to someone? It's all because you haven't established that rapport to know that your vet is giving you the best advice out there.
Yeah. So. A relationship of trust is developed over several touch points. Mm-hmm. You innately trust some people just on a first conversation, but true trust is built over a period of time. And, like you said, your vet knows how to talk to you and explain things to you, but she also knows how to do that for Fluffy's mom, and she knows how to do that for Coco's dad, and she knows how to do that for Buffy's first-time pet owner, but she's known this young girl since she was 4.
Right.
But it's her first dog as an adult. She knows how to navigate that situation from a human standpoint.
Right. Exactly. And, and it's funny because my next question I was going to ask you, which goes along with what we're talking about, obviously going into the vet, doing the preventative care with your pets is a great thing to strengthen that relationship with your vet team and those visits that you have to make. Is there anything else that you can think of that might help to strengthen that partnership so that it is a little less stressful for their pets when they have to take them in?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things. With dogs, not so much cats. With dogs, if you're out and about with your dog, stop by the vet hospital and let them get pets and kisses and loves, and that's it. And you're out the door.
That's a good idea. Because
we would love to see you. We love seeing healthy animals. We love seeing smiling faces, getting kisses, and your dog is like, great, nothing bad happened.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Cats, not so much. We'll give cats a break. They just flat out don't like coming to the vet's office as a general rule. But it's the same thing as we were just talking about. That level of familiarity helps you when you're less stressed out coming to the vet because you know us. Your pet's going to pick up on that, recognize it. Being able to have honest and open conversations with your vet about things that you might be concerned about. If you know for a fact your dog last year did not like being up on the exam room table, suggest to the vet, hey, can we do the exam on the floor? If you know last year you came in and your cat was there and you're in the lobby and there's barking dogs and it freaked them out, tell your vet team, hey, last year it was quite noisy when I was there. Could we make accommodation that we bring Kitty in on a day that's a little bit less busy this year?
Right.
Be aware of the things that are making the visit stressful for your pet. Communicate that to your vet team, and then work together for a solution. Right.
When I did animal control, we would do rabies clinics with one of our local vets over where the shelter was at, and that was one nice thing when we'd have, you'd have all these people lined up, obviously, to come in and get the low-cost vaccinations for the rabies clinic. And sometimes you'd have dogs that didn't like other dogs real well.
Yeah, it's a madhouse, right?
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, and you got to try to keep them separated and no fights going on and under control. And so my vet was really good about that because when she knew there was someone like that, then she'd have them come through like the back door.
Which the other side, yeah.
Yeah, which was right next to the office where she was given the exam and the shots. So they didn't have to come through that whole melee. Same with the cats. If the cat was really worked up, And obviously, I don't know how many people... Most cats don't really like to travel all that well in a car anyway.
We'll give cats a break.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know many cats that do like to travel. There are a few, but there's not a lot that do like to ride in a car. Yeah. And I don't know if it's the actual coming into the vet that stresses. I think it's more the car ride than it is.
Yeah, being shoved into the carrier and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So I can't really say it's just that they don't like coming to see the vet. It's a number of things that those poor cats have to go through.
It's the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because dogs is not quite so bad unless, of course, your dog doesn't like to ride in the car either, and then it might get. I did have one that for a time he didn't like to ride in the car, and. Most dogs, if they don't like car rides, they tend to get sick and throw up.
They can get car sickness, no doubt.
Yeah. Mine pooped.
Yeah, that too. There's a point. If you know your dog gets car sick, then communicate that to your vet team, and they will assuredly give you car sickness medicine to administer the night before, so they don't get an upset tummy.
Yes, and my old girl, even though, she hasn't had any real bad experiences or anything like that with the vet, we go to the vet and she just stands there and she shakes. Yep. And so, we have some trazodone to help with the anxiety for going to see the vet or for thunderstorms because she doesn't like the bangs either.
Yeah.
But at this point, she's about half deaf, so she doesn't hear it quite as much anymore.
That's nice.
Yeah, unless it's really, really loud. And then, of course, she hears it and she's up here on the couch with me shaking and I'm trying to calm her down and, giving her... But yeah, so I mean, there are different things out there that they can do to help with those things if you let them know ahead of time. They can give you the car sickness stuff. Unfortunately,
and I think even more and more frequently, anti-anxiety medicine is becoming kind of the standard in veterinary medicine. If we see a patient that's really having a difficult time navigating the veterinary experience, we suggest either let's send home some medicines and come another day, or at the very least, next year, I'm marking on your file that we are going to preemptively give some anxiety medicine the night before morning of, so that your pet's not having a legitimate panic attack by being here.
Yep, exactly. And that's, yeah, that's what we do with her. Is when we know we've got to go, she gets it a little ahead of time, so she doesn't have quite as much anxiety going. But yeah, it's amazing some of the things. But the one dog that I had that didn't like to ride in the car, he got over it. He got much better, but he didn't get sick. He pooped in my car.
Oh no!
Yeah, so
no fun.
Yeah, no, that was not any fun at all. Let me tell you, trying to clean that.
Fun. No fun for you or him.
No, and I couldn't believe. I was just amazed that he pooped and did that. I was like, wow, I've never had a dog do that one before. But he was that stressed out about being in the car that it just. And that was like I think one of the first times I had ever had him in a car. I think so. I didn't know ahead of time that he was going to do that. I did kind of think, well, if he doesn't he could get car sick, but I sure wasn't expecting him to poop. So that was an experience. So just be aware, people, if your dog doesn't like to ride in the car, it may not just be a result of getting sick. He might do something else.
Poopy upholstery. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it wasn't fun at all to clean, let me tell you. It took me a while. But that's okay. It is what it is, and you live and learn. And then after that, if I had to take him anywhere, I'd put a blanket or something down. But
there you go.
But like I said, he did finally get over his fear of riding in the car, and he started doing much better on his rides. So, let's see here. All right, now we did talk a little bit, like you were saying, if you're with this family for a time, especially if like, say it's a family and they've had children and the children have grown and gotten new pets as they've become adults. So this kind of leads into that, I guess. If someone out there that's listening right now is thinking about bringing a new pet into their life, what would be your best piece of advice for getting off to a healthy start with them?
Oh, I love it when people think they've got room in their heart for another family member, right? I mean, that's awesome. But I would say as a just a general overarching rule is to not make a long-term commitment to a new pet in a spontaneous manner. I mean, so like if a pet needs immediate assistance, most certainly step in as a good Samaritan, help when, where, and if you can. But what I'm getting at is what's important is to take the time to really contemplate what the addition of that new pet will mean to your household as a whole.
Exactly.
Evaluate all the factors involved. Get everybody's opinion of all the people involved that will be affected by your decision. And then consider what effect it will have on your other pets as well. And I'm not saying you can't get an animal if it's going to stress another pet out, but you need to take the measures necessary to abate that and make it as minimal as possible. And then you have to take into consideration your financial and time resources that are available for this new pet as well. A puppy takes a lot of time.
Yes, they do take a lot of time.
If your finances are already stretched, you probably shouldn't be agreeing to the additional burden of food, medical, whatever, of another pet, no matter how much you love pets.
Exactly. And I'm glad you included in there, to get opinions from all of the family members, not just making a decision on your own, but, your spouse, your children. Although I know if you may have small children, and of course smaller children are going to be all about getting a new puppy or a new kitten. But, and I hate the fact that so many people get their young children, and I think it's awesome that you guys want to teach your kids about taking care of pets. But the reality of the situation is you go out, you get a pet, you think your child's going to take care of this pet, and it's not what usually ends up happening.
No.
You end up with the pet, you end up taking care of the pet. Right. So if you decide to get that new pet, don't just base it on your kids wanting one. You have to remember the fact that you're going to be just as responsible for that pet,
right,
and that your kids more than likely aren't going to be as responsible as you think they're going to be.
Right.
And then if you have to force them into taking care of that pet, they're going to, resent
you, right?
Yeah.
Resent the pet, etc.
Exactly.
Can I share a personal example?
Sure.
So it doesn't go for young kids only. It goes for college kids too.
Oh, yes. Lori. Yes, it does. It does. Yes, I know.
So a personal example is on a whim, I brought home 2 cockatiels that were surrendered to a vet clinic that I was working at over a summer as a college kid. And it truly was a whim. They were surrendered. I brought them home. I did not ask permission or input from my parents. I just brought them home. Chaos ensued.
Yeah.
Firstly, I mean, my parents were not pleased, but they were pet lovers, but they were not pleased. Secondly, our family dogs and cats were so distraught and agitated by the addition of these 2 birds. They'd never seen birds before. And thus forward, they were banned from my bedroom because that's where the birds lived. Also, pets were not allowed in the dorm that I was living in. So when I went back to college, my family had to care for those birds for several years until I finished college. Yeah. And I did not take into account that some apartment complexes also don't allow birds.
Oh, wow.
So when I was seeking to rent after graduation, veterinarian after graduation, I was limited in the number of choices that were available to me, and it resulted in me having to pay a higher pet fees because my parents were not going to let these birds stay at their house any longer than absolutely necessary. And granted, I was young in this scenario, but I could have been considered an adult. I was in professional veterinary school. I should have been making wise decisions, right? But, nevertheless, I made a long-term commitment without forethought, and it was not a wise decision.
Did you keep the birds until they passed?
Yeah. They were well into their teens. Most cockatiels live well into their teens. They were happy and healthy till the end. But my decision to make a long-term commitment to 2 pets in this situation affected my entire family dynamic. It affected my pocketbook.
Yep.
And it is quite possible that there was, if I'm being honest, a better fit for those cockatiels.
Right. I've kind of been there, done that. With me, it was white rats. Although I did talk to my mom before I did bring it home. I was in high school, and it was before I actually took the class, but for psychology, they trained the rats, with the food to bell. And so the class that was ahead of mine, the group, I don't know, there were several groups that had the rats. And anyway, the one group, none of them could take the rat, because you kept the rats.
Right.
They didn't, I don't know where the teacher or whoever got them from, but anyway, no one in that group was able to keep the rat. And I was friends with one of them, so I talked with my mom, and she did let me keep the rat, and so I did bring the rat home, and it was an experience, and my mom doesn't like rodents. And I'll just say we had quite an experience. That was the first. I actually had the second one, because then I took psychology, and I kept the rat.
Kept that rat too.
Yeah, I kept that rat. By then we had lost the first one. Did not know that, unfortunately, white rats,
they only live a couple years.
Well, and not only that, they're very prone to cancer.
Yeah.
And so that is what happened, unfortunately. The first one, he ended up with cancer, and we lost him. And then I got the second one, and it was kind of fun. My mom's husband even got involved. He made this big cage for my rat, made out of plexiglass. It was pretty good size, and it had a lid on it, a pegboard lid, so it had the holes and everything, and a little latch. And I swear to God, that rat was so smart. He kept getting out of that cage. I don't know how he did it, but he kept getting out of that cage. And this is how I found out my mom doesn't really care for rats. Well, he was in her room one time under the bed when she was doing the laundry, and she had her laundry on the floor, and she went to pick up the pile of laundry to go do it, and the rat comes shooting out from under the bed. And oh yeah, I heard that scream all the way upstairs, and her yelling at me, and I was like, oh my God. So I caught my rat. But he got out another time. He literally made it all the way upstairs to my bedroom. He found me in my bedroom. Sure. I'm like, wow, you're pretty
smart.
Yeah, he was smart as a whip. But again, unfortunately, he also developed cancer. So yeah, I did have them probably a good year and a half, each one of them, but and so they were getting older, but yeah, so it was quite an experience. So like you, I brought home rats and no experience with them and keeping them, and it was a whole family thing. And but my mom and them actually did pretty well with it. I got to tell you. And then as an adult, I actually had a ferret. Me and my kids had a ferret. And that probably wasn't the best idea either because we had dogs. And so the ferret had to be kept in my son's bedroom. And if we wanted to bring the ferret out into the outer rooms, then we had to lock the dogs outside. So, and then I had to watch it because, ferrets find every little hole. So,
yes, they do.
Yeah, they do. So you really got to watch. If you have any holes, they will disappear. So anyway, but it finally, after having the ferret for a while, it was one of those things of, it's not fair. The ferret doesn't have a playmate. Mm-hmm. It can't get out and do the things that a ferret should do. And so I did the right thing, and I found a new home for the ferret, and it had a playmate. So they were already versed in ferrets, and like I said, they already had one, and so when they took that one on, now they could have playmates. So
yeah,
it is.
So I guess that would be the other part of our thing is if you do find yourself making a long-term commitment, and it turns out to not be the right fit, it is your responsibility to do your ever best to fix that.
Yes, and I know so many people get upset, and with dogs being rehomed all the time. I can handle a lot of reasons. I don't care for the one where the person says, I just don't have time for the dog, especially after you've had it for, 2 or 3 years. But it's like, putting the dog in the shelter really isn't the best option if you don't have time for it, because I hate to say this. I know everybody thinks their dogs are going to get adopted or their cats or whatever, but that's not.
It could be there sometime.
It could be there sometime, or they might not come out of there. That's just, unfortunately the way it works. So, I hate to say it this way, but your dog, and I hate, when you're gone working, I don't know if people realize a lot of times their dogs are sleeping during the day while they're gone. I mean, it's not like your dog's running around the house while you're gone at work 8 hours a day going, hey, where's my owner? I need to play now. No, they're probably sleeping. And if you can't take, even 15 or 20 minutes out of your day when you come home from work to pay a little attention to your dog or go out and take them for a walk, stuff like that, then I guess maybe you should have thought about before you even got the pet. But, it's not a good time, especially right now, to say, I don't have time for my animal. And, and if you don't, then try to rehome it on your own instead of sticking it in the shelter. Best. Yeah, your ever best. I know sometimes it doesn't work out, and you have to make that hard choice. And situations
change. And
they do.
Job situations, family dynamics, all of that. Yep. Again, that comes back to the whole compassion thing and trying to be understanding from being, whether that's an animal care worker, a shelter worker, a veterinarian is trying to work with the people within the parameters you have available to you, and making the best decision for the pet.
Yep. And I'll tell you, people used to laugh because I used to say, if something ever happened, especially when I had 6 dogs, and I had a couple that did not get along, like the one I still have now. She was very dog picky. She only got along with like 3 of the dogs that I had here. The other ones she didn't care for at all. So they always had to be switched around between rooms so that they would have equal time out, in the outer house, other than being in the bedroom. But I made the best of it. I learned how to switch my dogs and keep them separated. And it was funny. I told people if anything ever happened and I lost my house, I would be under a bridge living somewhere with a shopping cart and dogs tied, around and away from each other. But that's what I would have done to keep my pets and not, give them up and put them in that situation. But it does happen, and it does understand it. The thing I really want to stress is if you do decide to take your dog to the shelter and turn them in because you think that's the best decision, please don't just go take them and drop them off in a drop-off box tied to the fence or whatever. Take your dog in and give the workers there the most information and history that you can, because by God, that helps so much in finding your dog a home or your cat. either or, cat, dog, bird, whatever. If you don't lie. Don't say it's a stray.
Background history is super important in finding them the best next home.
It is. And, and unfortunately, and I know I'm saying that, but unfortunately there are shelters that I know of. The shelters in Phoenix don't take owner turn-ins. They only take strays. I understand that Phoenix has a huge population and they get a lot of animals in.
Yeah.
But what are you doing not taking in someone's animal that they have now made the decision to bring in because they don't want to keep it? Because if you're not taking it, they are turning it loose in the street.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't understand that philosophy at all, but I have a friend that works up there in animal control, and if they have to have a dog where it's an owner turn-in situation, they can't. Well, I don't think I should rephrase that. Animal control, I don't think, can take the dogs in as an owner turn-in. I think the owner does because I think the shelters make them pay to turn the dog in. So that might be actually how that's working. But animal control cannot. If an owner, calls animal control and wants to turn in their dog, animal control can't take the dog in.
It has to refer them to somewhere else. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's very weird how that shelter works. That I just don't get it. But it is what it is. And it's funny because I used to argue with people all the time because I was a public shelter and they say, well, you can't, you have to take them. You're a public shelter. And I'd look, well, okay, here's the marker. Go back there and tell me what full kennel back there you want me to put that animal down. Yeah, because where am I going to put it? So I said, yes, I can say no if I don't have room. I'll work with you. If you can give me a day or two or a week, I might be able to get something out of here into a rescue or adopt it, and then I'll take that animal if it's not imperative. It has to come here today. Right. I was always willing to work with people, but, it is what it is. And one last thing on getting a pet, too. Please research the animal you're going to get, the pet you're going to get. If it's a dog breed, research that dog breed. Just don't get a dog breed because you just like how it looks or something. Research what that animal's breed is like.
Yeah.
If you want to
any species, really. What's involved in the care, what's involved in the their psychological needs, their grooming needs, their feeding needs, all of the above.
Exactly. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a dog or a cat. Could be bird, could be horse, any of that stuff. Research before you get them because so many people get these breeds they know nothing about. You get a healer and you wonder why it's chasing your kids around. You get a Malinois and you wonder why it's such high energy you can't keep up with it. It's just amazing to me. I've always researched, well, I shouldn't say always, but as I got a little wiser, I started researching before I would bring a dog in. So that's the best thing you can do. So anyway.
Absolutely.
Well, we're getting kind of close here. We've kind of gone through everything I wanted to talk with you about, and we're getting to the end of our podcast. I don't know if you would like to throw out any contact information for yourself or the East Bay clinic there. If people wanted to, be interested in like your program that you have for the students and stuff like that, or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're local to me, which is in Pinellas County, Florida, we absolutely take volunteers through the school system. They have to have a situation where they're shadowing, career shadows, that type of thing. Our phone number, direct phone number to the clinic is 727-536-2743. For the student part of that, you would want to talk to my office manager, Terry Hepburn. She can help you with that. And then just general information about my hospital and what I do and where I've been and all of that is it's all one word, eastbayanimalhospital.com, www.eastbayanimalhospital.com. And then shortly, I will be launching my new website, www. all one words, pets, P-E-T-S, the letter N, and my last name, Moore, M-O-O-R-E, petsandmore.com. That's where I'm going to have my links for my cat box wars, and I'm going to be starting some practical information, blogs, and a variety of different informational type things for inquisitive pet owners.
Oh, that's really cool. I was just going to ask you if you were planning on doing any more blogs or anything like that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep, well, I'll be launching it with all the Cat Box Wars stuff. There will be the video. I'm hoping to put this podcast link on there.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to have a guide for figuring out cat box litter issues with your pet, and a variety of different free resources. That'll be the premise of the beginning of the website, but there'll be much more to come behind that.
Well, that's really cool. I'm glad you're going to do that, and I'll send you the direct link to this podcast afterwards so that you have that.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, no problem. I do want to ask, so you said the largest was the baby sperm whale. Sperm whale? Where did you get to work on a baby sperm whale? Was it there at the veterinary clinic, or was it when you were with the aquarium? Yeah,
Clearwater Marine Aquarium. Yep. He was a stranded baby sperm whale. His name was George.
George?
Yeah, he had a tail injury, and I can't remember exactly how long he lived. It was several months, and we grew him up, and we had hopes of transferring him over to SeaWorld so that ultimately he could be big enough to be released. But he succumbed to the infection from the tail wound and didn't make it.
No, that's
but
too bad.
Yeah, he was 1 ton, so the size of an elephant.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's amazing that you guys get to work with animals like that. That's so cool.
Well,
I just keep dreaming I might get to go on an Alaskan cruise just to go see the whales.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
That's on my bucket list too.
Yeah, it's on mine. Hopefully in the next couple of years I'll be able to do it. I'd love to. So, all right. Well, I have pretty much come to the end of the podcast. I appreciate you being on with us tonight and talking about all this really great stuff that we talked about. It was some really good information. And listeners out there, if you guys get a chance, go check out the blog talk with the Litterbox Wars. It was really interesting to hear your stories and what you did to deal with your cats and their litter box problems. Because I swear to God, so many people would have gave up by the time.
Yeah, no doubt.
After what you went through. So, I look forward to that new website that you're putting out there and that everybody will be able to find all that stuff there. So that's cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. It was such a fun time. Yeah. I loved it.
I enjoyed talking with you, too. It was great. And I'm just going to announce my next couple podcasts, and I know it's late where you're at, and I kind of heard you yawning over there. So if you want to jump off, you're more than welcome to get off. So, and I'll just go ahead and announce those. But I really appreciate you being on tonight, and thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Have a fantastic evening. Bye, Lori.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. So that was Dr. Moore. She just jumped off. I'm so glad that she was able to be on the podcast tonight and talk about all the really interesting stuff we talked about and learned a little bit more about those kitty cats and those litter box wars. Really, guys, though, if you get a chance, go check out her blog talks, her blog pause talk. She gets a little bit more in depth with what was going on in her household and all the different things that she had to deal with when it came to her two cats that were having their issues with each other in the litter boxes. And she had a lot of great ideas and stuff on there that she passed along. So check it out if you guys can. And like she said, she's starting that website, and you'll be able to find all that stuff in this podcast and stuff there too. So pretty cool. And I'm going to put a link to East Bay on my Facebook page like I always do for everybody. So, all right, everybody. With that being said, so the next podcast is November 13th, and I'm going to have Lori Hood on from Alaqua Animal Refuge, and we are going to talk about the refuge and how Lori got it started and all of the really cool things that Alaqua does there as an animal refuge. Both, pretty sure she does both domestic and some wildlife as well. So I'm looking forward to speaking with her and finding out a bit more about Alaqua. I'm sorry. I think I'm pronouncing it. You know, it's an Indian name, and you would think me being part Indian, I would remember how to pronounce that. But it's Alaqua, not Alaqua. Alaqua. So we'll be talking with Lori about Alaqua. And then after that, the next podcast would have actually been on the 27th, but as you all know, that's Thanksgiving Day. So we are not going to have a podcast on the 27th due to Thanksgiving. I hope you all will have a good Thanksgiving, but I'm not going to be on because I'm going to be stuffed like that turkey I cook. So, yeah, not going to be on the talk. So then after that, I will be back on December 4th. And on December 4th, I'm going to have Jennifer Catper on with me. And we're going to be talking about kitty cats again. We're going to be talking about happy feline homes and how you guys can help to make your home a happier home for your kitty cats. Jennifer was also on the blog Paws Talks and did a talk about having happy cat homes. And so I thought it'd be cool to have her come on the podcast as well and give her wisdom and tips and inspiration about happy cat homes on the podcast. So that'll be December 4th. And then again, like I said, the one before that will be on November 13th with Aliqua and Lori Hood. So hopefully you guys will come back in a couple weeks and listen to that one and then come back on December 4th to hear Jennifer talk about happy feline homes. And I hope you all have a great night and a great weekend. I appreciate you all staying on with me a little bit over. And stay safe out there. And try to do the best that you can to make the world a better place. I know right now there's a lot of craziness going on between all of the government shutdowns that are happening right now, which unfortunately, I actually happen to be a victim of because I do work for a government contractor. So there's a lot of craziness going on and there's a lot of bad in the world, unfortunately. So if you can do anything to make the world a little bit better, please do so. Have some compassion for your fellow human beings. Try to be a little more understanding and not so judgmental. And let's keep one thing in mind. It takes two to tango. It's not just one side that's at fault or the other side that's at fault. If there's any fault, it's between the two, both sides. You shouldn't fault one and not the other because neither side's making good decisions and good judgments right now. If they were, things would be a lot better than they are. And we'd be in a much happier place and a much happier world. But with that being said, just keep your heads up. Keep smiling. Try to do the best you can and try to get through every day the best you can. And let's try to make the world a little better. With that being said, have a good night. Have a great weekend. And hopefully you guys will be back to listen in a couple weeks. Bye now.